Today in the morning, I was able to wake up early and I was able to cook my breakfast. And I cooked like three different pork links. And unfortunately, I did not have enough time to get things really, really ready. So, what I did instead was that I prepared my food first. Then I went to shower and brush my teeth. And then before that, I did make sure to eat my waffles and get ready. And after I showered, I made this one of the most quickest things ever, probably a cold shower if I wasn't even waiting. And then later on, I was able to pack my bags and go because the night before I was already prepared. So, that's good. And for the zero width period in this time, I hesitated for the first 10 minutes because there was this one girl who was sitting down alone. And then later, there was a group of people along the library lines, and for about 10 minutes, I hesitated out of decision fatigue because there was a lot of people coming, and there's a lot of people who I could choose to be with. So, out of all the choices I made, I just decided to go up to the larger group along the library, and I hesitated, but eventually I went up to them, and I think the conversation went pretty excellent, despite it being a trio, and it improved heavily in metaphor in terms of my conversational basics, like how's your day, and pushing more to answer instead of asking, and though the weather today was pretty hot, so as for that conversation to close off, it went absolutely great, beautiful stuff. I did have a little bit of trouble, but I'll speak about that later on. In period one, I have Spanish 3, and the teacher did her intros today and basic stuff, and she said that for expectations, we will use folders and they will be graded. And before that, we did our basic name introductions, como te llamas in Spanish. And we also had to put our phone in caddies because apparently the administration is making this required now. And I switched seats and I sat near James this time and some other girls and I introduced myself. I did the basic metaphors of the fastballs of how's your day. And I did some one four seamer of how was someone doing, what do you think of this? And later on, we did an actual Spanish activity of quién. And one of the kids this time for the questions were counting by tens. There was a funny moment as one of them struggled to count. So I wanted to name one thing, though later on at a different question about what vegetables we can name. I said patata, but I was not able to actually say it because eventually the teacher interrupted and picked someone else, so I was not picked. I did have trouble pronouncing A to Z in Spanish, and I even mixed up some Italian words there. So the class later, though, did struggle in pronouncing A to Z. And after that, the teacher did help us a little bit in terms of taking turns and having us say it as a whole, so we did improve just a little bit. But later, she asked our date of birth. I said nací 7 de enero. And the class was mostly good on this when people know how to say their own birthday. And the teacher implied for the next question that we will have to memorize country capitals. And as at this point, the class was loud and vibrant, but we did have announced that there is a seating arrangement. And even as she was speaking, she did mix Spanish and English using pero as a replacement for but. But at the end, she closed it off and said to get phones to the caddy. I added a few people though after that, and to politely ask add this brief mention. I think I did well in the fundamentals of a conversation here. Eventually, early on, we did have to put our phone in the caddies, but after all of that time, I was able to get it back, and the teacher made all of us get it all at once instead of add table to table. So I was able to finish up some conversations and add a few people. Credit to you guys, I don't remember your names. So moving to period two, English, my class was all around a building, so I had some trouble trying to navigate around, but it was led. And the teacher this time made some schedule announcement and a story about how a wrong student who stayed in the period for the entire period, only to get their schedule announcement changed. Apparently, she was not able to find the right class in time, so she left right at the end. And for the teacher, in the present tense, she called others the best pronunciation in her roll call, but still pretty much struggled. And the teacher said for junior year, it is going to be a little bit harder as we are on the tail end for requirements, and especially for the CASP tests that apparently she said she's going to teach us good naturally, so that will pass her test, as her linear thinking is. And the class was mostly quiet, so I don't really have much to complain at this time. So mostly just introduction stories about how her day was, how her life is like, what, who she marries, or what. She does not like the LA Dodgers, by the way, nor the Angels. And for year two, she even said then as a junior and a sophomore, classes are taken for now, and these will be evaluated if we do join 4-year colleges. So we do need to be careful and no slacking this period. And she said our basic introductions and said what she likes, but she said she likes New York Yankees more than LA Dodgers and that she hates the LA Angels because their skills mentioned that they don't exist, quote unquote. And she spoke of Eugenia as a part of her introduction later. And sports, saying that she had the CCAA Hall of Fame for a 2-time All Star American for some league. And she says she attends sports games sometimes. And to anyone who does request for a college sports game, she will attend and she will happily put her banner, their team banner on her classroom. And she even does have other team banners now. And said that in order for this class, we must behave well, but it is important that we must succeed and fail at the same time. Also, it was announced that CASP tests will be pulled to score in colleges, and she also emphasized the importance of passing the classes, passing up for rules. She said no disrespect. Today's music, she does not like it at all. But for 90s music, she would prefer. Sometimes she says she makes jokes, but welcomes all backgrounds, so if someone is offended, she'll help. But for academics, she requests just one notebook for her class, and we filled out a green note card answering a thing over the summer and questions that we have. We then said them out loud, and there was one funny kid last year who was in this class now and is here, said that quote unquote, looking to enjoy English more, which I think is a comedic foreshadowing. And the funny thing that the teacher said later on is that we won't write much, but I have to be writing all about this because I will eventually convert this into a paper and talk about this online like this. So it is kind of a paradox because I'm already starting video essays before an actual essay assignment is even assigned. But later then we did continue essays, physical talks saying like how others will graduate and what is required, such as credits. And others will also do other classes for personal reasons at that point. Even then, Today, the teacher said that there will be seating arrangements that will be switched every 6 weeks per semester, and said that the principal is a stickler for phone caddies. And eventually, she said that we will have to put these into a caddy sometime once it's enforced. And we left at the end to our next class, although the buildings were very hard to navigate. For period three, I moved around and reached the old math building, but I did not take any stairs this time. And phone caddies are used here, and there is a Sears chart. And even then, my Chinese friend is also here. Hello from my old science class last year, and so is Miranda. So the teacher made a split decision on a TA request as I was talking to my friends over there, and they randomly appeared, and he made a split second decision, and he kind of said in the middle, so she'll come back and then they'll decide. And also mentioning that for this class there are diverse grades and not everybody here are juniors. So we did our introductions, but this time was mostly calm and vibrant in the class environment. And he also said that this classroom is also a club host, so he's also going to be here after hours. And he also did roll call and again mispronounced quite a few names, such as saying Ava as Eva. And for the pre-work assignment, we had to write 1 through 20 as math trivia, 4 number 4s for any operation in 20 equations that will equal any number from 1 through 20. So, such as an example that 16 can be written as 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. 17 can be written as 4 divided by 4 plus 4 times 4. So simple stuff right there without following PEMDAS, I believe. There are also participators too, and some of the class did have trouble using this, but we had to present one, so I used the table's role in that position, so I went to go right on the board instead of other people, and took the one for the table. But for this class, it was mostly fine. I do not have too much complaints here. The math teacher is an interesting guy, and he sounds a little friendly. And again, credits to Miranda, credits to James, credits to other people I don't remember. My other friend, from my science class last year. And as for period two, definitely shout out to the ones who I've met today. They're also in that class. And for period one, credit to a lot of my older friends too. I believe that there was one from PE. In period four, I have environmental science, and the teacher took roll this time. I hesitated to pick a seat, but eventually I chose another. And oddly enough, the two people who I met this morning are in two intersecting classes, which I kind of find lucky because the chance of like meeting like any person in the school, only for both of them to have that same exact class as you are, it's just kind of like that rare dice roll chance, I guess. Instead of choosing that one girl just for these two people, I don't know, kind of interesting, but I don't know what to think. I just kind of like a lucky hit there. The teacher this time was very kind and has an emphatic, vibrant response. The class doesn't use PCs here, so this is an outside based class. And she said that she apparently got a grant for this garden using a 43-pager plus for future field trips too, and types of plants and animals we'll learn about. So this is more of like a sciencey teacher. And our first lesson of climate change will also be about industry, food, and she's also science centric. She made a funny remark about the Zootopian naturalist and nudist colonies and that little humor there, but expects that despite the humor to understand and actually work in the class. And she also showed us our syllabus, but for the science book, she said that we must take personal notes on it, but it will mostly be sidelined for other work. She said that she's also lenient and allows food, drinks, and gum, but if they are messy, then she's not gonna allow it. But the most interesting part is that she allows students to ask random questions during lessons on the basis of science and this curiosity. So even then, for one single question, she could just derail a whole lesson that we have to do a quiz on it. So it's interesting. Notebooks are also graded heavily here, unlike other classes, so we will be definitely doing that since we are not using Chromebooks. And she said it is very hard to get Fs in this class, so most will pass with A to Cs, trying and participating. And she's also lenient on passing late work under valid reasons, so she doesn't do discipline, but she talks very, very explicitly before any theoretical escalation. And she does say, this is a mention to Phantom Tax here. If we are eating anything delicious, she is going to Phantom Tax it if she finds it delicious too. So the class this time was very, well, quiet at this point, but mostly people were listening. She did some personal intros, such as her interests, family life, and then a name tag activity that we do eventually, and that we have to color it and add our own personal flair eventually. Class ended. And today for lunch, I still got that same hesitation again in what group to join because there was this same guy from my 0th period. So I can be with him, or we can choose to take the bigger risk and go up to a large group we don't know. So I hesitated. So instead of wasting time, I knew that even deciding of whether to go would just keep it going more. I just went straight to him, like the baseball fundamentals. I did our basic conversational pitches, like how's your day going, like this was reciprocated back on a pretty good manner, and I was able to hit off something good while eating my lunch. Except that the meat that I prepared was pretty bad and stale, so I just ate the carrots and nuts that went good with it. I do boil my carrots before I eat them because it is much easier to absorb. Anyways, credits to my 0th period friend. Okay. In period 5 in US history class, there is now unfortunately a caddy requirement, and we had to answer a no guard for general interests and information like name, activity, date, number, songs, interest. And I introduced myself this time to a girl who was sitting right near me, and using baseball metaphor, I did the basic fastball introductions. For the class, we introduced our names, and I said the teacher asked how our rice is cooked and some other odd questions, and whether we're a youngest sibling or an oldest sibling. To remove awkwardness with the girl that was near me and other people who were also going up, I raised my hand and I went up first to present how my rice was cooked and what are my own interests in front of the class. I talked earlier with the girl near me, but I was able to go good, but I believe I asked way too many questions at this point. But anyways, in the conversation itself, I did have a little bit of trouble. People did their intros on and on. And for my note card, I did mine incorrectly because what's supposed to be on the blank side was put on the note side, so vice versa. And later on, we did a very first historical assignment if we could speak to someone from history, and I essayed for Bo Jackson. My friend chose Hitler. surprisingly. And then later, we wrote three things that we were worried of and circled one to work on. Sadly, the person that I talked to, it was really great. I did hit it off good. They don't have any media, so I can't do much out of that. Despite the hot weather, I did manage to make it to my sixth period, engineer design, all the way at another building that's even further down. So thankfully, there is no chart for seats nor caddies, so it says, but later on, yes, there will be caddies, but I just don't know where it's going to be. And today is the overview again at mini projects such as cubes and 3D robot fights. His expectations are nuanced, and if we participate and we do our best, then we'll pass, even if we're one of the most terrible people ever. And first thing that we did was logging on the bureaucratic annoyance, like to set up Canvas, to set up our first assignment, to set up the survey. We filled out our favorite information, like a general introduction on a Google form, and then the teacher made us stand up and say whatever our favorite thing was and information about ourselves and a name. And next thing that we asked was our favorite game, and I said GTA 5. But I wanted to say Candy Crush just to make the class laugh a little bit. But I did not say that, but this one was pretty humorous as people were laughing, and I fooled off for a little bit and joined like a light conversation with my friend Ted, and ended off pretty well. For one last answer, I did want to say that I enjoy cereal, Raisin Bran as a cereal, and I know the class was looking at me, everybody was laughing too, but it did end off pretty well. I did kind of act like Eli from my Spanish class last year for a little bit here, but again, I'm getting too distracted in like board dynamics. I know I just threw myself off for sixth period, so what I did instead was that eventually I just collected myself and just headed on out of there. But it was very great. Teacher was absolutely amazing, and even though we did have troubles in terms of getting like the computers ready and setting things up because there were like a few problems that my friend Ted had, but this was great.